Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining this masterclass on integrating technology in the hospitality sector by Tata NeuSkills. Before we begin, I want to say a few words about SWAYAM Plus. SWAYAM Plus is an initiative by the Ministry of Education and IIT Madras. In short, we are an industry and employability focused skilling platform to help learners upskill themselves and become more employable. In this regard, we are hosting a series of masterclasses so that learners can hear directly from experts on what is happening in industry. So you may think of this as a starting point for your transition from academia to industry. Your speaker for today is Professor Satish Jayaram. He has been invited to show you this transition path. He has over 35 years of experience in hospitality and over 25 years of focused experience in hospitality education. He grew India's finest hospitality management institution, the Institute of Hotel Management at Aurangabad, as principal in 3 tenures of 5 years each. Professor Satish, we thank you for your time and look forward to your invaluable expertise and insights. Over to you, Professor Satish.
Thank you so much, Romit. Wonderful to be here with all of you. Thank you for joining in such large numbers. I'm delighted to see the response and the participation. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the learners for their time, particularly individuals, institutions, industry professionals who are taking time out to be with us and with Tata NeuSkills today. Gratitude must go to the Ministry of Education for their vision to create a platform like SWAYAM Plus, which enables industry learning to be accessed by people across the country. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge IIT Madras, who have been at the forefront of this change and who are leading this entire academic transformation for the country. Tata NeuSkills, for all the wonderful work that they do and the project that they work on, and Tata Group for their pioneering efforts and for giving us the motivation for nation building. Last but not the least, my colleagues who have helped me put together this presentation and who have supported me with a lot of research in the past few months so that we can share all of our insights with you. At this point, I'd just like to tell you that the notes are accessible and therefore will be made available to you at some point after this masterclass. A few disclaimers are in order. The first one is that this is an open source web-based research that has been compiled by me and my team over a period of time. My perspectives continue to remain my intellectual property, and some of the insights that I have received in the time I've been able to serve in the industry continue to be available to all of you. Having said that, since this is from the World Wide Web, this learning actually belongs to everyone. The second point that I'd like to make is that I'm sure as we go forward, you will realize that there is no deep explanation into any of the technologies because the focus is on how these technologies can be applied and integrated into the hospitality and service sector. I would like to request you to jot your questions down, hold them until the question hour, potentially post them in the chat box. The team that is hosting the masterclass is going to be monitoring those questions. If I'm not able to answer those questions in this forum for whatever reason, I assure you that these questions will be answered individually. You will hear back from me on your emails from prof.satish@tatanewskills.com. And before we kick into our proceedings for the day, very quickly, this is largely an introduction. We're going to be focusing on how these technologies can actually be applied and how these technologies are going to make hospitality a different place and are going to meet a lot of complex expectations that are emerging as we go forward. The possibilities are immense. And having said that, we have so many use cases. Some of them are from other parts of the world, from other countries. There are benchmarks that have been created. I'm sure these benchmarks can be bettered. And there are many examples of how things work today. These may not be a limitation on how things may work tomorrow. Having said that, I think all of the wonderful learners that we have here and all of our ability to create new technologies is definitely geared to evolve in time, indigenously, and scale to make India the service capital of the world. So let's kick in to what we want to do with SWAYAM Plus. And the learning outcomes are what I'd like to share with you first. So we're going to look at the top 12 technology trends and how they can be integrated into hospitality operations. The second part of what we're going to do is we're going to look at the possibilities of care and convenience that will enhance the lives of future professionals who have exacting requirements. And these are on both sides of the service fence. We're going to explore the possibilities of multiple technological applications to meet complex growing customer demands today. We're going to reflect on how personal technology and some of our own experiences with this technology can be adopted for a digital life and how we can leverage this technology and create solutions that will work for us in the future. We're going to reimagine a new set of hospitality experiences that will shape the future of service deliveries, not only for hospitality or tourism, for a lot of sectors where the service element is actually crucial. So let's begin with voice search and control. Start with a few real life case examples. You are welcome to Google these. MindMeld is now in a position to look at neuro-linguistic programming and integrate the insights from neuro-linguistic programming with artificial intelligence. Some case examples that are already working exceedingly well. Alexa, which is also sitting in our homes, is being used by Marriott to create a seamless service experience. One such experience which speaks to you, an in-room robot, is the Hilton Relay Robot. Tabs in hotel rooms have been common. I remember going to the Plaza Etienne in Paris and noticing tabs there at least 10 years ago. We are looking at opportunities where we can capitalize voice search data. I'm sure a lot of you use voice to search on your own mobile phones, but we're looking at an opportunity beyond Alexa, Siri, Google, and your own personalized requirements. So your voice and the data emanating from your voice can actually lead to a tracking of your personal expectations. Hotel books, websites, booking engines today, of course, are on the World Wide Web. But having said that, if they could respond to voice demands, you can create a trail of a lot of opportunities. So what it will actually mean is speak for your choice and not click. And you can see that given the grid that we examine between voice and text, there is a growing reliance on voice. Let's look at contactless payments. I remember being in the US and speaking with a few academic colleagues who say that this is a game changer for India. And there's a lot of information about UPI and how it has changed the way we deal with money. There's no doubt about the fact that it speeds up payments, but if you look at the quality of information that it provides to you about your own patterns, how the money is being spent, and how this can be aggregated together in a speedy fashion, you can look at points of sale, having QR codes, aggregating data, which can all be put together in a coherent manner. So our mobile phones today are a new payment partners. And I remember a time when payments used to be complex. And if you look at how seamlessly these are executed today, these are some things that we can use and leverage for us to be able to deliver a more seamless user experience in the future. Let's look at omnibus universal loyalty. And here I'd like to quote Tata NeuCoins. You're familiar with the Tata Neu app. And if you download the app, you know exactly how your spending patterns go, which categories, which sectors you spend on. You have a hassle-free tracker which tells you what you can trade off your new coins again. And this is largely coming out of the ability to look at this unified payment interface as a new way of doing business. Let's look at robots. And here I'd like to quote the case example of Alibaba. So Flyzhou Hotel in the Guangzhou province in China, you can look this up on the internet. Their reliance on robots is palpable. There is little human intervention inside of this hotel. So there are self-serve kiosks which allow you to do everything that requires an interface between you and the hotel. And as we go forward, you can imagine a time when housekeeping, robotic cleaning, as well as nanotechnology with self-cleaning fibers is going to change the way we deal with some of those marginal elements that are responsible for a great stay. There's no doubt about the fact that robotics involves a huge capital investment, but then you need to look at the consistency that it will bring as a novel service differentiator in the future. Chats are being used in a very big way. Having said that, there are a lot of repetitive room restaurant queries that keep coming up. So you have an advantage of not needing a person to answer the phone, and you have any time sequential answering depending on the kind of tree that you have created to be able to respond to the requirements that guests have. So unlimited repetitiveness reliance, you get the same answers accurately, consistently, every time, each time. But having said that, there are complexities and it's not a replacement for humans. Routine query facilitation can be carried out easily. There is a sense of urgency, speed, and responsiveness, which is the expectation that people have. They want to be attended to. However, you might find that some of these responses are coded, they are impersonal, and do not specifically meet expectations. It actually depends on the amount of information that you have already scripted inside your chats to be able to respond. However, I think what is very heartening is that the patterns of these chats are being demystified by artificial intelligence. And there is going to be a lot of learning in the future. Let's talk about virtual reality, another technology that's been around for a long time. But the key question is how easily is it accessible and how much can we leverage it for the future? So 360-degree remote hotel views is the obvious answer that comes to my mind. So you can actually visit a hotel virtually first and get a warm welcome later when you physically arrive there. Now, if you look at virtual reality applications, you can give people a peek, a walkthrough into the rooms that they're going to potentially live in the future, the kind of banquet halls they are going to use, or even destinations that are close by. And one of the suggestions that I made to a set of colleagues is instead of spending a lot of time explaining to people with pictures or with words, you might actually be able to drive sales if you gift VR kits to people who are likely to come and be inside of your hotels. So a sharing of tour videos openly gives people access to what to expect in the real time. You can look at web browsers being VR enabled. There might be tourist attractions where it's possible for you to get live feeds and to get a current position of what is happening right there on the ground. And real-time updates can give people an opportunity to decide whether this is the right time, whether extent of crowd that will enable them to have a great experience going forward. Uh, Mobile as life support has genuinely been a post-pandemic reality. So while it may have started with reduced transferable infection because it's a device that is so personal to you, I look at mobile phones today as real life partners. They are with you all the time, other than the time you potentially switch off. They are able to perform all of the functions and they land up becoming an extension of your personal identity. So there are a lot of user experiences that get integrated with your mobile phone. So just to give you a few examples, using a private limousine check-in so that you don't really have to check into the hotel because all of that data can be seamlessly transferred from one end to the other. Using your mobile phone as a personal room key, enhancing the quality of security, looking at wider contactless technology provisions, such as privacy for you to access the room through the elevators, guidance for you to get into areas, domains in the hotel by coding maps on your phone. So, in a sense, we already experienced this, but we've not fully leveraged it yet. Life is in your palms, literally. And there are so many more things that we can do. Switching over to biometric interfaces and facial recognition. So facial recognition technology has been around for a long time, but how much are we able to leverage this technology? So we see a lot of frequent guests coming back, and there's a lot of information on those guests that remains inside the system, sitting in large databases. Now, if we have biometrics as seamless authenticators, we're not going to have to repetitively perform a lot of processes and functions and create a greater experience for people when they walk into premises. It does require a great reliance on technology. It requires a simplification of processes and systems. And of course, it goes without saying, a large amount of investment in time, energy, and money to be able to achieve this. I have an interesting case of a click eye, which becomes part of the uniform. So this is a contact lens that you wear when you come to work, and it has a lot of data which allows you to recognize people as they walk in. They are able to communicate with you. You are able to access previous history data using the click eye. And there are extensions of this in terms of glasses, in terms of cameras embedded into glasses, data being reflected on your personal glass screens, which allows you to enhance the quality of service that you provide to the guest. So a seamless recognition database across all areas where purchase takes place is what the reality looks like. And face mapping is so unique and it's such a signature. It will allow you to create a high level of customization for everything that you purchase, either in premises and out of premises, but very specifically personalized to your requirements. And of course, DNA mapping is on the cards, and I hope to see a time when we will live through this. There's a lot of discussion about artificial intelligence, and there are live case examples. So, from my research, I noticed Hilton was one of the first to adopt these, and IBM was able to create these solutions. So, you have IBM, Connie, and you have IBM's Chef Watson. So, ChatGPT today has energized a lot of roles which require repetitive engagement with huge amounts of data. But having said that, can you imagine a situation where you have to pour through tens of thousands of ingredients and you have to create a very uniquely specific meal, the recipe of which has been told to you once in terms of a preference? And Chef Watson has the ability, unlike humans, to be able to create this meal perfectly suited to your requirements. And interestingly, I was recently able to view a project which is taking place at IIT Bombay, where Cloud Chef, okay, which is a use case which is live in San Francisco at this point of time, is able to leverage technology to be able to control cooking devices, provide recipes, point you towards ingredients. So the applications that artificial intelligence provides to us are limitless. It requires that repeat patterns can be rapidly analyzed so that we can code them and see newer patterns emerge. Now, these ecosystems are going to be in future constantly updated with big data. And AI is in our life. I'm not sure you felt it yet, but as your phones listen to you and as your devices listen to you, a lot of personalized content starts to come your way. Let's look at IoT, another very interesting application. Though there are related pros and cons, I think the benefits far outweigh the disadvantages. So there's a lot of intelligent data capture in terms of consumption of energy, for example, creating enhanced user experiences. I'm able to switch on the air conditioning as well as communicate with my car through my phone, which allows me to find out how easily I might be able to get to my next destination based on the amount of charge that the EV has. Now, if you look at the internet as a service partner, it is able to perform a lot of functions for you seamlessly. Now, whether it is controlling your room temperature to suit your requirement, whether it is being able to tabulate energy efficiency across a wide range of applications, freezers, devices that are used for heating. And heating is not really such a huge concern for us here, but if you're able to tabulate all of this information, you can create customized solutions both at the service provider level as well as create customized solution at the user end. You can look at self-controlled entertainment, which can be queued to your requirements through your mobile when you enter your room. And of course, having monitored all of this, it will definitely over time lead to superior cost savings and profits. This is something which is on the cards. It's not fully leveraged yet, but this is an opportunity for everybody to want to explore. I'm going to talk to you about the 10th technology, an augmented reality option. And the case example I have here is a company called Beacon Tech. We are familiar with three dimensions, but can you imagine a fourth dimension? Can you imagine your augmented reality being able to send a virtual screen to your bedside from which you can look at pictures of the food that you want to order, or create recipes or code in ingredients that will suit you better? So the AR smartphone in an internet-friendly world is going to change the way we do things. So if virtual reality is in three dimensions because you need to get your visors on, I want you to imagine a world where augmented reality is going to be in the fourth dimension. So some such applications are point to a compatible wall map, which tells you how to get to from one destination to another. Point phones at buildings to get information on whether there are certain offices which are actually housed in these skyscrapers, to give you the advantage of being able to travel precisely to your appointment and to your location. You're able to choose specific destinations, rendezvous points, restaurants. You're able to integrate this with live apps which feed you customer reviews, where restaurants are crowded, there's a long queue, waiting time, somebody enjoying a particular recipe, being able to exult and say, you must come here, order this, and enjoy this. Now, all of this is seamless data being transferred in a limitless world. So being able to go into a new destination, being able to identify local attractions, restaurants, shopping areas, and finding businesses that you want to actually interact with. All of these are possibilities of the future. Let's look at big data. I see a seamless world evolving, and this is a humongous participative network of people who respect each other's boundaries, dimensions, and data. Now, real-time data can be shared across a wide variety of consumption patterns. Intelligent destination recommendations based on current degrees of over-tourism or under-tourism, or even potentially opportunities for weather to influence your decision to go somewhere. Demographic customization patterns. So you can get information on what ages of people are likely to visit at what point of time, at which stage in the year, in what kind of seasonal conditions. You can get data on gender distribution of people. You're able to get information on what kind of budgets are currently being deployed in these destinations, the frequency with which money is being spent, and all of these changing patterns which are not constant in today's day and age. You're able to get seasonal trends, and that was able to influence the kind of rates that are charged. I'm sure you experience this today, but how you can leverage this in the back end is something for us to think about. In simple terms, revenue management, dynamic pricing becomes much smarter. So there are macro environment influences and indicators that can also feed in, such as bad weather, set of conditions that do not suggest you take a certain path, get on a certain route, change your route. Now, all of this is going to be a reality. This one, 10 years ago, was not possible. 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 This one, 10 years a non-fungible technologies is a favorite because I've been interacting with young students and young entrepreneurs and startups who are using this to their advantage. The case example is of NFT platforms. So you are probably familiar with room auctions because blockchain is able to connect all of those opportunities together. So let's take a look at shared asset trading. And here we are not talking about just one kind of asset. And if you can integrate those with loyalty programs, you can imagine the humongous trade opportunities that will come out of that. So non-fungible token technology requires you to mint and create tokens for either physical, virtual, experiential, or at this point of time, even metaphysical experiences. And all of these can be individually provided a signature and they can be on the blockchain. So every time their value changes or their relative requirement in another domain changes, you are able to get the blockchain advantage. So you need to think about personal value crypto enhancers. You need to think about value chains where people that you do not know but are part of this whole seamless trade will benefit from interacting with yourself, your tokens, and the humongous technology that supports this trade. I see a time when NFTs and the metaverse will become one huge reality. I am aware of the fact that Millennium Hotels have actually created their first virtual hotel on the metaverse. The interesting case I'm going to share with you here is a company called BookTech, which have engineered crypto revenue strategy using non-fungible tokens. So experiences are minted in advance for them to have a future relative value. So staying at a Bulgari hotel, creating a non-fungible token for a particular date and time, and then watching the value of that non-fungible token change and being able to facilitate that trade. Now, though this technology is currently in its initial stages of use, I see that it's going to be a game changer as we go forward. So before I get into the Q&A with all of you, I want to leave with you just a few thoughts. Where are we now and how have we fully leveraged the technologies that we have at our disposal? Are we prepared for the newer technologies that are going to emerge? With all of this support that we have, and once we create this integrated network, where do we want to go with it? The more genuine and difficult question of how are we going to get there to begin with. If this is what the future appears like, what if we've not yet fully imagined the future adequately? And have we completely welcomed the present today? Are we ready to welcome the opportunities that lie with us at our disposal? And then, having said that, what are some of your thoughts? What do you think about how all of this is going to change the way we do business? Much of what we learn today, our curriculum, our research, is based on what happened in the past. There are papers and there are use cases, but if you look at the degree of adoption, the degree of adoption is slow. In order for this adoption to scale up, you're going to have to get more and more people to learn how to leverage the technology which is at our disposal. And at this stage, I'd like to open the floor for you to post your questions on the chat. I'm going to request the SWAYAM Plus team in the back end to start collating all of these, and we will try and answer as many. But while you do that, I'm going to leave you with a few thoughts. Are we ready to live differently again? Are we ready to relive differently again? Do we need to change our life goals? Do we need to change the metrics and measures of success? Can we adopt digitization today? What it's going to need is we need to unlearn the past. We need to connect in the present and look at the opportunities that are around us. We need to renew ourselves to be able to adapt to these emerging realities. Marks, data, reports, and our ability to analyze and read them to be able to gain advantage at an individual as well as a business level is something that is a new skill that we need to learn. We need to leverage the digital universe because that is where the future is, and that is where all of us live willy-nilly today, but we are going to have to adopt to a new way of doing things in the future. So we need to relearn all of this to thrive. With that being said, there is a requirement for us to invest in technology. We do invest in personal technologies, but technology is the way forward. We need to be able to learn to leverage social media because that's where a lot of feedback and a lot of reactions are constantly coming, and they are good quality data. You need to be able to apply filters to decide how we can learn from how people are responding or reacting to their stimuli on a platform where reviews are being posted, information is being shared, and all of this is at your disposal to be able to make sense of it completely. And of course, having said that, if we don't have the ability to digest huge amounts of data, it's time for us to make friends with the resources such as artificial intelligence that are at our disposal. Uh, I have managed to say as much as I potentially thought I could, having exposed you to the top 12 technologies, some ways in which they are being used, and I'd like to throw the floor open. We have adequate time to be able to respond to all of your queries. Once again, this presentation in PDF is available and is going to become accessible to you. So please feel free. I'm going to stop sharing now and happy to answer any questions that come up.
Hi, Professor Satish.
Hi.
Romit here. I will read out the first question from Pranjal Ratan. He says, Sir, through AI technology, understanding of AI technology, we can customize solutions to meet individual needs, regardless of the user's level of technological expertise. This allows us to bridge the generation gap by catering to users of all ages and organizations. AI will adjust to each user, utilizing big data, prioritizing privacy, and delivering personalized solutions at its core function. I think he's looking for possibly a comment or something on this along these lines.
Right. So the only thought that I have is that a few days ago, I was at a forum where somebody asked me, is artificial intelligence going to take away our jobs? And my response to that was, artificial intelligence has the ability to enhance your ability to perform better. And while artificial intelligence, Pranjal, is going to do all of these things that you talk about, it's going to enhance your ability to deliver a personalized custom service, which can be then delivered at a premium. So if you look at the manner in which we are using our individual intuitiveness to be able to access all of the resources at our disposal, you can devolve that function to the artificial intelligence to be able to suggest to you from decision libraries what needs to be done to enhance the quality of experience for others. And this is potentially across all sectors. And though I come from hospitality, I can assure you that this service delivery process can have application in a lot of sectors, whether it's aviation, tourism, realty, entertainment, financial services, insurance. Uh, I mean, the possibilities are humongous. So it's all open to how well, how ethically we are able to leverage the resources at our disposal. So I hope I've answered your question, Pranjal.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Satish. I think, yes, that was a good response to his question. We have another one saying it's from Padmaja Rathor, who says, how can this technology be of help in the field of earth tourism and um, she says, rewilding our lands, waters, and hearts. Being a creature of nature and led by technology, how can we make most of this uh, sort of a niche earthwise tourism?
Fantastic. Hi, Padmaja. Uh, it's a great question. So let me break this question up into three parts. Okay, the first one is a humongous amount of data is first required for you to study the patterns, right? Whether in terms of how the weather affects the amount of resources that are available at your disposal, how many cusecs of water come in, what are the temperatures like, what the effect is on the ecology in your area. Once you gather all of this data, I'm sure you'll be able to evolve patterns out of that. Uh, how you can use those patterns to integrate with the people who are in that ecosystem and how you can empower them to lead better lives using that technology is the second part of what needs to be done. And I like what you say about being a creature of nature. Nature has its own code working for it, but we've not been able to demystify that. We've not been able to pattern it. And with all of these huge changes in the environment, we need to see how they can be mapped so that we can live better, take off the earth in reasonable measure what we can give back. And most importantly, if we want the planet to survive better, we are better off with the technology than we are without it, so that we can then measure what is currently being consumed by us and how much we need to renew the resources that we are taking away. I hope I've answered the question that you have.
Thank you, Professor Satish. We have a couple of more questions. One is a bit more sort of broad. What might be the key outcomes of AI in hospitality management?
Right. So let's look at humongous quantities of data that are currently sitting in multiple databases. And I want to look at earliest examples of learning organizations. Okay, you have a database of, say, 100,000 guests who have visited your hotel. Okay, you have studied their patterns. All of these patterns are sitting inside terminals that you need to access. Now, it's possible for you to leverage artificial intelligence and use a lot of other technologies like the click eye that I spoke about, which is able to use biometric recognition, delve into the database, bring out information that you can use in your conversation without having to rely on a terminal. So if you look at the multiple gaps that exist between the data, the access to that data, the interpretation of that data, and the use of that data in guest interfaces, you can leverage artificial intelligence to perform those functions for you in such a way that they can seamlessly empower you to deliver a better service. And there are multiple use cases. Let's take, for example, accounting in hospitality. Okay, let's look at credit in hospitality. Let's look at new payment interfaces. Let's look at global distribution. Let's look at inventory management. So the applications are limitless. If we are able to understand what takes away a huge amount of time in repetitive processes, and if those processes are expected to deliver an outcome so that we are able to take better decisions, you can then outline those processes and devolve much of those repetitive functions to the artificial intelligence to enable you to perform better. I think that's the answer. And I hope I've answered that question for the next person.
Thank you, Professor Satish. The next question is from Mohak Srivastava, who says, good evening, Professor. The hospitality industry has always been about human connections and at its center. But with the rising use of artificial intelligence everywhere, will it empower us or make us more dependent on technology? Please share your thoughts.
So it's interesting what you asked, Mohak, I want to get you to reflect on your reliance on your mobile phone today and how your life was 10 years ago. And I want you to think about whether, irrespective of its disadvantages, whether the mobile phone that you carry with all of its myriad functions has in fact enhanced your life or made it worse. So we can have a very long discussion on if this is the way to go, but the way I see it is that it is the only way that we have at this point of time. So we cannot be islands and decide not to adopt technology. So if you look at the much larger ecosystem, I mean, let's look at e-governance in multiple systems today. Let's look at reporting. Let's look at data. Let's look at services. Let's look at access. Let's look at simple things like food being ordered on mobile phones. Now, if you see how much of this technology is being able to make life easier, if we choose not to be part of that whole wave of technology, whether it is in terms of being able to analyze patterns, whether it is being in terms of delegating routine functions and tasks, whether it is being able to generate greater equity and access and transparency, it is a reality. I agree with you on one dimension, which is the issue of data privacy, the ethical use of technology, which is a concern. And there are a lot of people who are educated enough and who are sensitive enough to the fact that we need to use this technology in a responsible manner. But having said that, I think it goes back to the earlier question I answered about artificial intelligence. It's not going to take away your jobs, but it is going to make you perform better. And therefore, if you look at the gap that exists in your current skill set and a future desired skill set, it is going to be your ability to learn how to leverage artificial intelligence. So I hope I answered that question for you, Mohak.
Thank you, Professor Satish. I think we have a question from Sumit, who says, good evening, sir. My question is AI technology safe for hotels or any hospitality outlet? Like before applying fully to hospitality in India, do we have any government rules so that uh, customer data will be safe and secure? Are we holding any data safe policies? Is there any threat of customer data leaks? For example, like one in the UK has a law for AI. Thank you.
So yes, Sumit, there is going to be a Data Privacy Act, which is going to also protect the amount of humongous data we generate as a 1.47 billion nation. But having said that, to begin with, let's break your question down. Is artificial intelligence safe? Yes, you are accessing this artificial intelligence, let's say through a Copilot or through Adobe and other service providers. And you have, of course, we continue to use the take and not read the terms and conditions of who the data will belong to, what happens to the intellectual property that's so generated, etc. If we were to take into account all the blocks and filters that we need to put in place to protect ourselves, our guests, and our businesses, please remember that much of the artificial intelligence, which is in the large language space or which is being used in models to enhance business worldwide, has an ethical dimension, which is the core of it all. So that should answer the first part of your question. On the policy side, yes, there are provisions that are being made, and the last part of which is that is there an aggregated understanding of how we will all respect each other's data for the larger benefit of the nation or for the larger benefit of the customers? Well, that is something which will evolve over time and will get refined over time. So though there will be a policy from the government, how well we leverage that policy and use it for the benefit of our guests, our businesses, and for our own selves is something that will emerge only after we start to use the technology, right? So I think it's an iterative process, right? We don't know everything that's happening with artificial intelligence. We know that artificial intelligence has humongous ability. And my first advice to you would be to start taking a free course on Gen AI, mastering artificial intelligence, to know how we can use it to our advantage. How much you want to commit to it is a matter of choice, right? I mean, the choice on how much you want to share with the artificial intelligence remains with you. And once we are able to develop the confidence, do a couple of use cases to see the accuracy of the use of artificial intelligence, I think the reliance on that intelligence will then increase so long as it meets your expectations. I hope I answered your questions, Sumit.
Thank you, Professor Satish. We have a couple more questions. One from Sri Patki. She says, at what scale and intensity can hotel and tourism schools incorporate AI content in the curriculum? And would you advise this content to be micro, that is department specific, or macro, serving the overall sector?
So both perspectives need to be taken into account. You see, hospitality is a subset of a much larger business context. So hospitality serves those businesses which may or may not be completely using technology. So the first layer of information is, of course, the generic knowledge of how technology is changing the world of business. The second, of course, is how this technology is integrating and aggregating various businesses together. The third one is how those technologies can be applied, which was the focus of my talk today. How can we take all of these technologies that exist in the world today, and how can we apply it in our context? So from a curriculum standpoint, I would say all three need to be done. So there is a vocational use case of technology. How can we deliver far better food and beverage service? How can we deliver far better food from our restaurants? How do we deliver a far superior housekeeping service? Or how do we deliver an engaged interaction with our guests in the future? Okay, that's at the vocational level. At the second level is at the functional level, right? So how can we leverage technology to perform the three functions? Let's say finance, human resource, digital marketing, engagement, social media, much better, right? Because that's where there's a huge integration of information knowledge. How do we leverage the feedback we're getting from reviews? How do we quickly correct what we need to do to provide an enhanced service? So that's at the functional level. The third level is at the strategic level, right? At the strategic level, what happens at the economy? What happens to businesses? How do businesses affect each other? How do they integrate with market mechanisms? All of this is also knowledge that students who are in schools, and I don't want to single out hospitality or service schools, I think students across the board need to have this knowledge, because that is going to empower them to perform better in the world once they become professionals. So does it require us to take a long, hard look at what is happening inside our institutions today? Definitely. And one of these initiatives you can see right away, if you look at SWAYAM Plus, if you look at the 35 odd industry service providers who are taking fresh knowledge as is being required by industry and making it accessible to students so that they can continue to get credits even as they are dealing with curricular elements. I think this kind of hybrid empowerment from third-party channels is required for education to become complete. And therefore, the answer is not about having a partial adoption. The answer is having a complete transformation of what we do in our institutions today so that we create better citizens. So look at some of these courses that are available on SWAYAM Plus, and that will give you a sense of how we can create integrations between, say, nutraceuticals and hospitality, or healthcare and hospitality, technology and hospitality, financial services and hospitality, actuarial sciences, insurance and hospitality. So the possibilities are limitless. I think at this point of time, some of the blinders and limitations that we have with the quality of content, the kind of curriculum, the access to this new knowledge, as well as our ability to commit ourselves to learn this knowledge for the benefit of the industry, our sector, and potentially the nation is what is at risk. And I would strongly exhort all of the learners who are listening in to start this empowerment journey for yourself. So we're not going to wait for a curriculum to change. Knowledge is around you. The university of life is huge. Okay, this university of life interacts with you every day through your phone. And therefore, you need to look at the quality, credibility, cultural complexity that you need to take into account. So if you were to study a platform like Tata NeuSkills, for example, okay, if you look at what awaits you, whether it is in the area of data analytics or cybersecurity or front-end development or coding, all of these are realities that are going to enhance your performance in the future. So I hope I answered that curriculum question.
Thank you, Professor Satish. We have another 5 minutes.
Right,
We have two more questions, which I think we can answer fairly quickly, and then we can
sure.
close. One is, will the guests in a hotel be willing to pay extra for hotel services indulging in artificial intelligence to enhance the guest experience? This is a question from Parvez Pagarkar.
Right. So let me start by saying that when technology gets adopted at scale, the costs in fact go down. So using artificial intelligence across all of your 200,000 odd rooms and in the unstructured as well as structured sector, and leveraging technology completely should be able to enable you to provide the service at a lower cost than a higher cost. Then comes the second part. There are people interfaces with the technology, and there is an enhanced service that can be provided, which will obviously be at a premium if it meets the expectations of our guests and if they're able to see how this enhanced service quality differentiates from what is available in commonplace opportunities that they can access easily. I am certain, even as you know today, if you look at some of the hotel reports, you will see how the RevPARs across the country are changing. So the premium is already being paid. If you look at the levels you have in terms of occupancy increases, if you look at the average rates that are being paid across the country today, if you were to study some of these reports that you have in the public domain, and I can point you in the direction of a few, take a look at Horvath, take a look at Hotelibate, take a look at the India Brand Equity Foundation. Look at all of this information. It actually tells you that people are spending more on hospitality today than they ever did in the past. So is this going to be a reality? Yes. Is it going to be initially expensive? Probably. Is there going to be an investment required in technology? Yes. How quickly are we going to recover the investment on the technology? It depends on how deeply we adopt it. And that's the answer to your question.
Thank you.
And the last question for today.
Yes. So last question is from Arnab Das. And he says, sir, how can smaller hospitality businesses benefit from technology integration?
If you are a restaurateur or if you are looking at a food delivery service, let's say you are providing a transportation service, I think the greatest living examples of these you see in life today are your ability to place a 250 rupee order on your mobile phone, which activates a production system, which activates a logistics and supply chain management system and a delivery system for the food to land at your doorstep in 40 minutes. I was reading the annual report of Zomato, and I can tell you that the possibilities that lie ahead for small businesses which are at the bottom of the pyramid and which represent a larger part of the whole consumption economy in food and beverage, is largely on account of the use of that technology. So I think that quickly answers you. So if you look at the number of small businesses that have in fact benefited by adopting technology and changed their cost structures, reallocated the physical resources at their disposal, and made delivery or cloud kitchens a reality, have definitely benefited from increased volumes. And there are multiple use cases of that. So I hope I've answered your question, Arnab. You are welcome to write into me, and I will strive to respond to each one of you. I'm available on prof.satish@tatanewskills.com. And I can see somebody is asking whether they want to be an AI ML engineer. My answer to you is, let me point you to Tata NeuSkills. Please log on to Tata NeuSkills. So I am going to put my email on chat, and I'm also going to put web access on chat. So I will strive to answer your questions as quickly as we potentially can, but please feel free to look at a homegrown solution which meets all the variables, the cultural requirements of how we need to apply technology, the context in which this technology needs to be applied, and the credibility that this technology lends by making you employable or giving you an opportunity for entrepreneurship. That's what Tata NeuSkills brings to the table.
Thank you, Professor Satish. And I'd like to remind everyone that Tata NeuSkills is on SWAYAM Plus, along with a few other partners and courses. But Tata NeuSkills is one of our partners who has courses on AI and ML, as Professor Satish mentioned. So please do register on SWAYAM Plus. Follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn and YouTube. So yes, you can follow us for the latest updates on SWAYAM Plus on social media, as well as register and take courses on SWAYAM Plus.
So thank you, SWAYAM Plus, for having me over. It was great. I hope I'm able to enhance people's understanding of how they can leverage technology. Thank you to Tata NeuSkills for giving me this opportunity to share some of my research. And above all, to all of you who have been a wonderful audience. I haven't had many questions, but I think it's also because you are reflecting. Please commit to technology, because that is the only way your lives are going to be enhanced and you are going to be empowered to become better professionals. So thank you for being with us this evening. Back to you, Roman.
Thank you again, Professor Satish. It was a very interesting and informative lecture. I think the questions, a lot of them were very relevant, very good, and you'd answer them perfectly. It was a very positive session, very upbeat, very clear. So thank you for your time and your expertise. We really appreciate it. And thanks to all the participants who logged on. And we will be sharing this link on YouTube so that it is available to be watched later again. Along with, we may also send out the presentation from Professor Satish. Thank you all once again, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your comments. I'm just accessing the chat. Thank you. Thank you so much.